warm welcome to the start of 2026, change in the calendar. The thought I was in touch with, when I was um, preparing for this meeting with all of you on this day at this time, that it is. I'm logging in from Hong Kong, by the way. I'm visiting with family and I'm here in Hong Kong. I'm logging in from here, and everybody celebrates New Year like it is a global tradition now that everywhere around the globe people celebrate this day. But for them, they have a Chinese New Year, which is what they consider actually as the New Year. And likewise, in every part of the world, every culture, we have our own uh, start of the. So everyone has their own calendars, and the start of the new year is marked by their traditional calendars. But it's so today is start of the Gregorian calendar, and because it is globally a calendar that all of us follow across the world, we end up celebrating today as the start of the new year, which is fine. I mean, every day to celebrate, an excuse to celebrate is a good thing. Every excuse to turn the page is a good thing. So I'm just in touch with that thought even as we begin. So, what I intend to do today is share with you an overarching reflection, I might call, if I might call it that, a reflection from 2025. And in sharing with you, I urge you to kind of do something similar. We will have a little bit of an activity in today's session, and then followed by a meditative practice. Yeah. So, firstly, I'd like to begin by wholeheartedly, with everything uh, in me, wishing and sending you love and blessings for a successful 2026. Mm, Being here in Hong Kong and connected to the Chinese calendar, I don't know if it is Chinese calendar, by the way, okay, but I'm assuming that the year that went by was the year of the snake, and the year that is about to begin is the year of the horse. And apparently, the year of the snake was to bring to the surface all that was toxic in us, all that to needed our attention, needed for us to reflect. And the year of the horse is to now pick up and run. Okay, that is the broad interpretation I've been hearing from casual sources. It's not an informed kind of an interpretation, but it rang true for me in the context of my life. And so I just want to share a few reflections um, on that basis. So today, this has been on my mind for the last 10 days actually, because I know I connect across all communities on this day. Many of you log in every year. I've seen you log in for this particular session, and they're not necessarily from my student community. People from across the globe log in for this session. So my mind starts to gear up for this interaction on this day. And the one theme that has unshakenly been in the first position in terms of what would I like to talk about, the priority, the one theme that has remained on my mind is the understanding and the role of karma. What is our understanding of the term karma? Although it is so commonly used now and it's become a global term, no longer confined to Indian context. So, what do we understand by the term karma? What meaning do we make of it in our day to day context? And how is that supposed to, in any way, help us? I understand that it's a serious start. We are starting the 2026 on a serious note. But hopefully, by the time we are done with the session, we are feeling empowered and not burdened by the seriousness of this idea. before we get into the meditative practice, I could open up the window for a few to address a few questions. But for the time being, even as I'm speaking, if you have questions, please put it on the chat box because we may not have enough time to allow each one of you to speak when you have a question. So if you put it in the chat box, I'll go back to it towards the end of the concept session. So I will speak from the context of my life and my personal experience over 2025. And maybe it will touch something in each of you, evoke something. Maybe you will find resonance with some parts of what I have to share. True to my understanding of what the year of the snake is supposed to be, 2025 has been a year of a lot of deep journey, a lot of challenges, a lot of parts of myself that came up for attention, that came up for examination, for review and reflection. And while some were smooth, some were happy, some were encouraging, empowering, there was a good part that was challenging as well in all aspects of my life. And through the process of getting in touch with myself and looking at all these challenges that were surfacing and the wide spectrum of events that occurred in my through the year, the one thing that became very, very clear, that became very, very obvious to me, was the inevitability of karma. The inevitability of karma. And I will expand on what I mean when I use that term. And the inevitability of the law of karma, probably I should be saying, and how it is irrefutable, inescapable. So I will share with you what I mean when I say use these terms, and the law of karma. Many of you who have been in my classes would have probably heard me speak about it already. For some, it may be a different perspective. For some, it's just a review of what you already heard from me, whatever it might be. It's very fresh and alive in my mind, and hence it has become the topic of my sharing today. When I say the inevitability of karma, or when I talk about the law of karma, I have come to understand through my own study, my deep reflections, going deeper and deeper into myself and self-awareness and so on, I have come to understand that the energy signatures that I project out into the cosmos, I'm speaking on a larger scale, we'll narrow it down to the self and this lifetime. The energy signatures that I transmit into the cosmos, into that space of cosmic energy, do not ever die. They do not die. They do not go away. Now, what do I mean by energy signatures? I mean a certain thought, a certain idea, a certain belief, a certain attitude that I hold with conviction and consistency. So when I've arrived at conclusions, I have arrived at conclusions about myself or about what life is or about how the world operates, when I have arrived at conclusions that this is the way it is, this is who I am, this is how the world operates, this is how the people in my life are. When I have made these conclusive statements in my mind, this becomes a strong energy transmission, because that particular conviction, that particular thought or idea is transmitted at a certain frequency and wavelength from the whole of my being. Okay, so as I'm holding on to certain ideas about myself or about my life, I'm constantly transmitting those ideas into the cosmos. Why am I using the word cosmos? Because there are certain parts of my life which are immediate and around me, involving the people in my life, currently people who are around me. But there are also certain ideas which may not show up and may not be reflected back through mirrors right away, but it exists. It's out there. And the fact that it has gone from me is not erased. So when I put out certain ideas, the ownership of that idea remains with me. And the inevitability of karma, what I mean is that therefore, that particular idea or thought or belief, conclusion, judgment, conviction, call it by whatever name, that part of me, like a boomerang, will eventually find its way back to me because I am the owner of that. That ownership of that attitude, since it remains with me, since it has been transmitted from my mind, since it has been transmitted from my mind, it may travel to whatever length, but eventually it will circle around and find its way back to me. And I will get to experience the quality of that idea. What do I mean by quality? Uh, I will get to experience that idea. What I mean to say is, I will get to experience what that idea means through my own person. As I'm speaking, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Just a reminder. If you're with me, then that's great. So, what do I mean when I say the inevitability of karma, the irrefutability of karma? I have understood this about the law of karma. What emanates from my consciousness, I continue to hold the ownership of that idea that I have entertained, and eventually it will find its way back to me because the thread of connection remains with me, and it will need to be brought to a closure by me. It will need to be brought to a closure by me. This is the law of karma, which is absolute. It is irrefutable, inescapable. Don't be daunted by these big words, okay? We will explore further. But I don't want to also dilute the uh, what this actually means. Okay? So this is the law of karma. It's not reward and punishment. It's not that you do good means people will do good back to you. It's not does not mean if you are well behaved that people will treat you well. It doesn't mean any of those simplistic versions that we have largely carried as the meaning of the word karma. Therefore, what am I saying? Every idea that we hold on to with as a conclusion about primarily three aspects. Who am I? What is the nature of this world that I live in? What are my conclusions? What are my ideas about this world that I live in? And what is my relationship? What is the equation I share with this world? I am categorizing it under these three headings. When we are thinking it, we may not be thinking it under these headings. unless we examine the body of thought, our own body of thoughts, or our own body of beliefs. When we examine it, we will see that it broadly falls under one of these three categories. I'm repeating it. Broad categories: who am I? What do I think of myself? Who am I in my own view of myself, in my own understanding of myself? Who am I? What is this world? What is the nature of this world? What is this world like? And what is my equation or relationship with this world that I live in? This comprises broadly the body of conclusions slash beliefs that I carry. And I'm constantly transmitting these ideas into the cosmos. And the consistency and the conviction with which I carry these thoughts will determine the longevity of this thought in the cosmos. Therefore, I am not referring to a passing thought. I'm not referring to something, okay, you heard something somewhere for a moment, it stayed with you, then it has disappeared. You don't really subscribe to that certain idea, you don't really believe in that idea. I'm not referring to such thoughts. I'm referring to thoughts which we have arrived at and hold as a conclusion with conviction. Now, the deeper that conviction, the deeper the conclusion, the longer is the life of such a thought. And the thread, the ownership of this thought is in my hands. And sooner or later, in this lifetime or next lifetime, eventually it will circle back and reach the owner of it, which is me. And when it comes back to me, it is in my hands to bring a closure to it. Because if I don't bring a closure to it, I will perpetuate it. Either I bring a closure to it or I perpetuate it. Which is to say, it affirms. I will affirm it and give it an extension of life. Every time I affirm something without revisiting, without examining, I will give it an extension of life. Now, this process is what I have understood karma to be, what I understand karma is. This obviously includes all kinds of thoughts and beliefs. Every kind of thought and belief, the same principle works. So, what is this being? The inevitable, irrefutable, inescapable law that pervades all of life, this being that, the law of karma. A couple of things as an extension of this understanding. The first thing is everything that has reached me belongs to me. Everything that has reached me belongs to me. Whatever that may be, however it may look, whatever word comes to us, however it impacts us, I might call it unjustified, I might call it unfair, I might call it totally unacceptable, whatever, okay? Whatever words we choose as our first response to a certain reality, to a certain situation that has come into my life. If I understand and start to operate from this understanding of the law of karma, the first thing I need to recognize is whatever has reached me belongs to me. Unless I am holding the ownership in my hands, it will not come back to me. I may not know, I may have no clue how I set this out into the when and what I did to put this out there in the cosmos. I may not understand it. At times I might, at times I may not. It may be a complete mystery. But if it has reached me, there is no doubt that it belongs to me. So the first step of any situation that knocks at my door and has entered my life, the first step is acceptance that it belongs to me. However, we may judge what happens. The sooner we understand and give up our resistance, the sooner we are in a position of power to deal with it and bring a closure, whatever is an appropriate closure. So the first step is acceptance. Whatever has reached me belongs to me. It, it could be circumstances in your life, it could be the people in your life, it could be situations in your life, financial, health, relationships, profession, career, whatever it might be. I have put something out there and it has come back this way. It belongs to me. So first step is acceptance. As we acceptance is not an easy thing. So what usually happens when we have to encounter something challenging or difficult? There's a whole range of emotional response, reactivity and response that is evoked in us. Anger, fear, frustration, disappointment, etc., etc. Whole range of emotions. And that is inevitable. I am not suggesting that you suppress those emotions. It is inevitable that we encounter, that we all of this is evoked in me. But once I have reached the step of acceptance that, okay, however bitter it may feel, and I'm talking obviously of the not so nice ones, the unpleasant experiences, the same principle is in action when we have very pleasant, positive, and encouraging, empowering experiences. And we have no hesitation in accepting that, isn't it? We accept it, digest it, internalize it, all of that happens. It's not a reward for things that we have done good. It's just another line of thought, another belief, another conviction that has found its way back to me. And this is the way it looks, this is how it feels. But the challenging ones, when they come back, it evokes all kinds of emotional responses. Once we are able to arrive at the place where we say, I accept it belongs to me. Sometimes I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know where from, but if it has reached me, it belongs to me. Once we are able to touch that point of acceptance, then the second step is to then discharge all those emotions that came up in resistance to that. The second step is to discharge the emotions that came up in me in resistance to that reality that has showed up in my life. For this, we need a force, a power, what I like to call a divine presence, who can hold me while I discharge those emotions. Who, in my understanding, has the capacity to accept my anger, to accept my fears, to accept my rage, my venting out, my disappointments, my frustration, my hopelessness, whatever is emerging in me, who has the power to accept all of that when I'm offloading it and still remain unaffected by it? That to me is one way of understanding the divine. It is very critical in my worldview to have a relationship with such a being, such an entity, such a force, such a power, who can digest all the toxicity that I'm going to discharge, all these toxic, difficult emotions that I'm going to discharge, who's going to accept it, receive it from me, accept it, and remain unaffected by it. It's up to each one of us to discover through our own process who that name or form is in my life. I simply choose to call it divine. So after acceptance is discharge of the reaction, the emotions that have been evoked in response to that difficult uh, situation that has landed in my life. It it is, the when somebody rings your phone, I mean, when your phone rings, whoever the caller might be, you may know the caller, you may not know the caller. When your phone rings, we never assume, oh, they were actually calling the person sitting next to me. It rang my phone rang by mistake. Isn't it? If my phone rings, the caller is trying to reach me. That is how karma, that is one analogy to understand karma. If something has reached you, don't assume it has reached the wrong address. It has reached the wrong person. I actually don't deserve it, but it just happened to me. And therefore, everything around me is so cruel or unfair. It never happens. If it has reached you, it belongs to you, period. There's no discussion around it. So, as soon as you're able to reconcile with it, get to that point where you are willing to accept it, then discharge all those emotions which are now futile, which is going to cloud your mind because it will interfere in the next step of bringing a closure to it. Because something that has gone out from me has found its way back to me. This is the way it feels. Whatever I put out there feels like this. Therefore, I have got a sense of it now. And this cycle will stop. I have the power in the here and now. That's the good part. I have the power in the here and now to bring a closure to this cycle. In the here and now, my current attitude, my attitude in the here and now is in a position of power to decide what will be the future of this karmic experience. But in order to have that ability, in order to be centered and be in a position of power and respond to that reality, we need to discard the fog, the toxic fog of our emotionality. Our rage, our anger, our disappointment, sadness, grief, victimhood, whatever it may be, helplessness, powerlessness, the whole family of difficult emotions. So, unless that mind fog has been cleared, we will be unable to find a center within us from where we can respond and bring a closure to this process so that we don't set off one more cycle of the same thing. Because remember, the ownership will remain with me. So the good part is that today, in this moment, you are in a position of power to determine what will be the future of this particular cycle of karma. Now, before we get into the closure aspect of this, I would like each of you to take a couple of minutes to reflect and make a note of those one or two or maximum three things that have really challenged you in the last year. Make a note of it, write down if you need to. If there has been nothing specific in the last year, it's okay if you want to extend it to before the last year. But just make a note of one or two or three things that you would like to look at, where it does not, you cannot connect the dots, you cannot find the thread of connection, but there it is in the middle of your life, challenging you in every possible way.
Anu, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I said, as you've shortlisted the two, three situations maybe that you have encountered in the last year or in the recent past, you could pick on any one that you can focus on as we go through this conversation today. Identify any one challenge, one situation that has been extremely challenging. Okay? Okay. Now, okay, there are a couple of questions I think coming up in the chat box. Let me take a look at it and then we'll go to the next segment. Uh, Shilpa and Akshay are saying, what does it mean to bring a closure by me? Meeta says, while looking at professional front is one part, there are also health challenges, difficult to see how one could have set them off. Yes. So like I said, Meeta, I'll answer yours and then go to the other question. You may not know, we may not know what was the start of that experience. In some situations, we may be able to connect the dots and relate it to something that we know about or we can correlate with. But there may be situations where the start or the source of a certain experience, mm, we may not get the hang of it. We may not get to it. Even so, we need to understand it belongs to us.
Okay.
A lot of the healing modalities, for example, when you do, say, a past life regression session or some of the other healing modalities that we practice in sacred paths, there is an attempt to get to the root cause. What is the root cause of this? Where did this begin from? Even in an ancestral healing, I'm assuming most of you here today are aware of my work in ancestral healing. All the names I know see are, most of them are familiar names. Yeah. So even in ancestral healing, we do attempt to get to the root cause. Where in the family system did this originate from, etc. So the healing interventions make an attempt to get to the root cause to satisfy our logical mind, to make it easier to accept. But it is not guaranteed that we will identify that root cause. It is not assured. We may or may not get to it. Therefore, at some point, we will have to just accept it and say, if I am dealing with it, it means it belongs to me. And it is in my power to bring a closure to it, even if I don't know what set it off.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will elaborate on that as response to the other question. When you say, what does it mean to bring a closure? I will talk about it now. Okay, that's to Akshaya and Shilpa. Nikhil, your question is that um, when you say it belongs to us, do you mean it was created by us? I don't know if you were there or you joined late, Nikhil. As I said, we every thought, idea, belief, attitude that we carry with a certain intensity and a certain consistency, it goes out into the cosmos. And I called it an energy signature. So, as unique as the signature is, no, maybe I won't use that example because there are a lot of forgeries. So, maybe that's not a good example, but nevertheless. So, when I hold a certain idea, a belief, as an attitude, especially under the broad categories of who am I, what kind of a world is this that I'm living in, and what is my relationship with this world. So, broadly under these headings, when I have certain conclusions I've arrived at, I've made certain conclusions about myself. I have I hold it with a lot of conviction. Now, all these are put out into the cosmos, and it goes out into the field of energy, cosmic energy, and eventually it comes finds its way back to me because I retain the ownership of that conclusion, the ownership of that idea, belief, attitude remains with me. And when it enters my field of energy, what is the nature of this energy, this dimension? The nature of this dimension is all energies are converted to physicality. All energies will eventually show up in the form of matter. It will show up in the form of an experience. So, whatever ideas I have put out there, when it turns around and finds its way back to me, it will reach me as an experience. So, in one sense, you can call it that I have created it, but created it not in an active way, created it merely by projecting those ideas into this cosmos, projecting certain ideas, beliefs, attitudes consistently with certain degree of intensity. The more consistent it is and the more intense it is, emotionally charged it is, the longer is its life. The longevity of that will be extended. So to that extent, if you want to call it that I have created it, yes, in a sense you have created it. But you may not have created, like Meeta said, I may not create a physical illness because nobody ever wants a physical illness. So obviously, in that context, say I have created it will not sit easy on me. But the fact remains that I have put something out there. And when it has found its way back to me, it has manifested as this condition in my body. We do spend a considerable amount of time in general trying to get to the root cause of it, which is a fair exploration, valid exploration. But even if you're unable to get to the root cause of it, there is no denying the fact that it belongs to you. That's the only reason it has reached you. So first is that understanding the irrefutable, unavoidable law of karma that operates across the universe. First is to understand the inevitability of it. That it has nothing to do with whether you think you're a good person, bad person, you've done good things, bad things. None of that matters. What belongs to you will find its way back to you. And everything that reaches you belongs to you. Conversely, everything that reaches you belongs to you. So, first is to digest this. And once you are able to get to that point in your own mind about what has happened to you, the second step is to then discharge all those other emotions that came up in you out of resistance to it. Emotions are inevitable. I'm not saying hold an artificially uh, unemotional state of mind. It is not, if you're feeling emotionally evoked, triggered, it's perfectly okay to acknowledge it, feel the emotions. But as soon as you're able to reach the point where you say, what is okay, however I may feel, whatever I may think about it, it has reached me because it belongs to me, and you're able to accept it. Acceptance is the first step. Second step then is to discharge the emotions that had come up in that process, discharge it in the presence or to a divine force, whoever is your idea of the divine. In this context, when I say divine, I mean a mind, a being who has the capability to absorb all of these emotions, however intense and however toxic they may be, the capability to absorb it and not be impacted by it, and yet offer you compassion in return. So, identifying such a divine source and being able to do it, discharge these difficult emotions in the presence of that divine force, is a critical part. Now comes the next part. How do you bring a closure to it? Now, it's not, let me elaborate on one aspect of what closure means right now, and then we'll see where it takes me uh, as we explore it, where it goes organically. The part of a closure that I wish to talk about now is inspired by a Yoga Sutra, Patanjali's. Uh, I have been a student, uh, I'm very much in the process of learning the sutras, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and understanding it, exploring the depth of each sutra, and I'm nowhere close to knowing it all. But there is one particular sutra that that came to my mind at the start of this year, and I have been trying to keep that one sutra in my mind as the focus through all the experiences that I went through this year. It is for those who are not aware, the Yoga Sutras are by Patanjali, is a very ancient text and is the basis of the praxis of yoga, as many of us are practitioners of yoga. This is the basis of it, and I want to just read out one sutra to you. I will read it out to you and then share my understanding of the sutra. So, this is Sutra 1.33, where Patanjali says, Maitri Karuna Muditopekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Vishayanam Bhavanat Bhavanatash Chitta Prasadanam. So you can see the level of my familiarity with this, with saying these sutras, uttering these words. I understand the essence of it and I practice it, but I'm not accustomed to saying it. So I'm going to read it one more time for you, and as well as for my own satisfaction. Maitri Karuna Mudito Pekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatas Chitta Prasadanam. What does this mean? This means my interpretation in the context of what we are discussing today. Okay. Um, all our experiences in this life, uh, the good ones and the not good ones, the good ones and the bad ones, the empowering ones and the challenging ones, all of them, more often, almost every single time, I don't think there is an exception I can think of, are delivered by the people in our life. Okay. The only exception I can think of is probably a health complication. But understanding energy dynamics as I do, these complications also arrive because of certain psychological challenges, which have then transferred into the cellular level, manifesting as a health condition. So every experience that reaches us, that we encounter, is delivered to us by the people in our life. So here, Patanjali offers a beautiful, offers very nicely an ideal attitude that we should adopt and operate from in our relationships in life. In this sutra, he offers us what is considered as an ideal attitude in relationships. So, whatever challenge, for example, that you have noted down as the most challenging experience this year, my guess is that there are people involved in that experience. It has been delivered either through a relationship or through a situation created by people. So, there are human beings involved. So, what is the ideal attitude that one needs to maintain in order to bring a closure to this karmic cycle? Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. Now, these are the four attitudes. Maitri is one of friendliness, the attitude of friendship. So when you are with people, have an attitude of friendship with people. What is friendship? Acceptance, being non-judgmental, accepting people for who they are, acknowledging them, treating them with respect, dignity. So that is the Maitri aspect of it. So this is an attitude you have towards people around you. The next attitude he talks about is Karuna. As soon as I quoted the Yoga Sutra, Hari's camera is on. Good to see you, Hari. Yeah. The next attitude is Karuna. Karuna is compassion. Compassion is empathy from a non judgmental space. I can feel what you're feeling. I feel what you feel. And I'm holding a non judgmental space. I have an attitude of non judgmental empathy for your situation. So when people around us, when people around us are going through a difficult time, then you hold an attitude of compassion. The next one is mudita. Mudita says, be joyful, derive joy and express joy in the joy and success of others. Reflect to them their joy. Be a reflective presence. So when you see someone's success, when you see someone achieving success, achieving something that's making them proud and happy and joyful, show your joy, feel joy for them, feel joy for them in their success. Okay. Maitri and Karuna, we all operate under the assumption that, yeah, that's how I am, that's the attitude I have. Okay, by and large, we may be operating from that assumption, although it is not sure, but we like to believe that. Now, mudita is really a challenge. How often are you able to feel real, true joy in others' success? especially when you don't have that same success as they have, especially when you are trying for the same thing or aspiring for the same kind of joy in the same field or in similar fields, but they have it and you don't have it. Are you able to be in a state of joy for them? That is mudita. And the last one is upeksha. When a certain person is toxic in their behavior, when they are behaving in a way that is not pleasant, not okay, toxic, okay, then maintain equanimity and remove yourself from there. Maintain equanimity even in the presence of their toxicity and just move away from there. Remove yourself from there. What does friendly mean? Maitri mean? There is always a wish of goodwill that you send out, that you wish well for them, that you are present with them, you accept them as they are. Compassion is being empathetic, holding a space of non judgmental empathy. Mudita is, I feel joy. When I see you joyful, I feel joy for you. I feel happy for you. And this is not contaminated happy. So this requires a lot of practice, a lot of introspection, a lot of self observation, self awareness, and get a sense of really is this what I'm able to do around people. And the last one is upeksha, which is just moving away, taking yourself away from toxic situations. So when so as per Patanjali, and this has really been the sutra that has held my attention through the whole year, and this is what I have discovered about Yoga Sutras and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, that sometimes that one sutra is enough to anchor you for extended periods of time. Just practicing that one sutra brings a lot of shifts in one's life, in one's mind. So for me this year, this has been that sutra, especially in the face of challenging circumstances. What is the attitude that I hold towards the people who have delivered those challenges to me? Through their attitudes, through their actions, through their behaviors, what has been my attitude towards those people? And as a consequence of my own challenges, what has been my attitude towards other people? So this is something I wanted to share with all of you today. Um, this may not be a antidote to the karma, but this is definitely one way in which I reduce what I put out there as unpleasant thoughts and beliefs, which is going to come back and get back to me. In order to be able to adopt these attitudes, one needs to, I want to offer you one suggestion, one suggestion in the context of self-inquiry. How do I understand what is my attitude? How am I responding? How am I being in the presence of these people? The one question is, what is my inner location and where am I responding from? Always ask this question of yourself. Where am I responding from? Where am I responding from to the events that occur in my life? This one question will give you a sense of what attitude are you going to exhibit. For me, in the practice of this holding this inquiry, keeping it alive in my mind at all times as a practice has brought a lot of clarity and cleared my mind in many ways, shown me truths about myself which I had not seen until then, showed me truths that were not pleasant. I needed to encounter myself. I needed to face up to who I am being because my question, if I come back to this question, where am I responding from in the face of this challenge, in the face of this situation? If I keep this question alive, by keeping this question alive over the past year, I have found great value and I have come to see parts of me that I've not seen before. And my understanding is, my dear friends, self inquiry is the corner, is, I won't even say cornerstone, I would say it's the foundation. Self inquiry is the foundation, it's the core to bringing closure to all your karmic debts. What do I mean when I say karmic debts? Stuff that we put out there that come find their way back to me. Okay? It's not a process that we can, at least I think in this group, all of us, me included, I don't think we can say, oh, I've done it all and I'm not going to have anything left remaining by the time I'm done with this lifetime. I don't think any of us are in the position to make that claim. But a very sure, definitive way on that path is self inquiry. And this is one powerful question that has helped me through 2025 and is I intend to carry through into 2026. If the four attitudes that bring peace and equanimity to my mind, the four attitudes that will balance that will shut the noise, bring balance, and therefore empower me. The four attitudes are that of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. Adopting these attitudes, but in order to pick up any one of these attitudes, the question I need to begin with is to ask, where am I responding from? When I encounter this person, when I encounter this situation, when I encounter these circumstances, where am I responding from? And if these are the four attitudes that are recommended, which of these attitudes would be appropriate in that situation? Where am I coming from? And what is the attitude I need to adopt so that I do not perpetuate, extend the life of that karmic cycle? I'm going to leave you with these thoughts to contemplate. There's one question from Priya. Are all difficult emotions resistance for? I'm disappointed but don't feel it's resistance. As I said, emotions are inevitable. So a spontaneous emotional response is inevitable to a situation, whatever that might be. But when I come to terms with it and I say, okay, however, whatever it may be, it belongs to me, hence it has reached me, then whatever is that emotion, I need to be able to discharge it. Okay, so be it. We all, so in this context, I would say every one of us goes through life without exception. Every one of us is going through life and living life following this principle of the inevitability of karma, irrefutability of karma. It doesn't matter what station in life we are, how evolved we are or not, how much we know or not. None of that matters. Every one of us, nobody is spared. It's an absolute principle of life. Every one of us is bound to act as, follow life on this principle. So, whatever reaches me, however, whoever I think I might be, however uh, educated or evolved or not I might think I may be, if it has reached me, it belongs to me. And after I get to the point where I'm able to accept it has reached me because it belongs to me, the second step that I'm offering to you is that we discharge the emotions that came up at the first instance, whatever that emotion may be, and clear the mind of that emotional fog and get to the point where I'm able to ask myself, where am I coming from in the way I'm responding to the situation? At times, I may be able to identify the root cause and address it at that level. At times, I may not know what the root cause is. But the response in the here and now is the point of power. The response in the here and now is the point of power. It's the power that I have in this moment. And the response I choose is going to determine whether I reduce the intensity of this karmic journey or perpetuate it and extend its life. It's going to determine that. Therefore, this inquiry becomes critical. In that process, to answer you, Prakalpa, is that karmic loop going to end? We don't know. I don't know. The best I can do is to be aware, be centered, not be clouded by my emotions and my reactions, find my center, ask of myself this question: where is my response coming from to this situation, to this person, to these circumstances? Where am I responding from? That's the best I can do in the here and now. Is that going to be wiped out altogether? Is it going to come back again? I wouldn't know, and there's no way of us knowing. There is no way of anyone telling you, do this and it's finished. Your karmic obligation in that context is over. There's no way of anybody telling us that. But this is one steady way of working through it to a point where it falls off for good. Okay, so couple of questions more, then we'll do a small process. Where am I coming from? So Sri Devi, I told you the 4 desirable attitudes that one must have in their relationship, in the relationships one has in life. The 4 desirable attitudes. So when you ask yourself the question, where am I coming from? You need to cross check with these 4 as a starting point. Am I able to adopt one of these 4, whatever is appropriate in this context? It is in this context that these 4 attitudes are offered by Patanjali. Maitri, friendship; Karuna, compassion; Mudita, joy in the joy of others; genuine joy in the joy of others; and Upeksha, where you say, okay, this is beyond me. This is not something that I can handle. It is completely in discord with who I am, what I stand for, what I want to be, or whatever those reasons may be, and I choose to remove myself from there with equanimity. Yeah. So let's take a few minutes. I want to guide you through a short process for now, just to give you a sense of it. And it might require that you go back to it and take a longer time and address whatever you have identified as your situation. Let's do a short meditative practice here. And in doing this, my dear friends, before we get into the practice, the reason I chose this is because let my desire for all of us, my aspiration is may this be the tone for the coming year. May this set the tone for how I respond to 2026 and all that it brings to me. This is the aspiration, this is the wish, this is the desire for all of us. May we understand that what reaches each one of us belonged to us. Therefore, may the period of resistance and non-acceptance reduce with awareness. May we be able to move to a space of acceptance. May we all strengthen our relationship with the divine where we can discharge the emotions that come to us at these times. May we find our center through this inquiry. And then may we put out into the world a favorable response to those sometimes unfavorable situations that have reached us. In offering this to you, this is my wish for all of us, that may we set this to be the tone for 2026. Let's do a short meditative process just to get a sense of what we have been talking about, what I have been talking about. And if you're able to relate to it, if you're able to connect to it, then this is something you could do with greater depth in your own time, as and when it is relevant. Yeah. So, and I invite you all to please sit comfortably and keep in mind that one situation, that one challenge that you encountered that remains to be closed, that is still a thorn in your flesh. Wherever you are, please center yourself, disconnect from all the distractions around you, from other preoccupations of the mind, and bring your attention to your breath. The steady, normal rhythm of your breath. As you focus on your breath, I invite you to connect intuitively, spontaneously, whatever you consider as the source of your breath. Who or what do you consider to be the source of your breath? I invite you to visualize or imagine that source. And as you inhale, experience every breath emanating from that source and flowing into you through the crown of your head. Visualize it, imagine it. Even as you are visualizing this, connect to this source as that pure intelligence, that consciousness, the divine, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient consciousness that in this very moment is flowing into you as you breathe, breath after breath after breath. Being present with you and watching over you almost unblinkingly. Your ultimate resource for all that you will ever need to live a full life. Every breath is delivering to you what you ask for, what you need. In this moment, share with this
क्या
source.
करे क्या बात कर रहे थे
In this moment, share with this source the challenge that you wish to address with awareness. The challenge that you have been dealing with over the past year, maybe even longer, which is so difficult to accept as belonging to you, as rightfully belonging to you. Communicate to your own divine source your desire to address this challenge with the right attitude. Your desire for clarity so you can bring a closure. In this process, hold this understanding, affirm this understanding. I accept that this belongs to me. money situation, work situation, health, relationships, career, profession, whatever the challenge may be, I accept this belongs to me. In your mind, state what it is that about the situation that is challenging you. State to that divine consciousness. I accept this is the nature of the challenge. I accept it has reached me because it belongs to me. I am now ready to look at it and address it with the right attitude. Be present to all the emotions that come up in resistance to that acceptance, the difficulty of accepting it, the difficulty of withdrawing blame from everywhere that you have placed it until now, and accepting total responsibility. This does not mean other people have not played a part in the situation, but right now, the focus is not on what the others have done or not done. The focus is on accepting that it belongs to you. It has reached you because you are the owner of that experience. Become present to all the emotions that come up in resistance to that. Be present to the anger, the disappointment, the grief, the sorrow, the blame, the helplessness, whatever comes up to it. Identify as best as you can where in your body you are holding these emotions. Where in your body are you experiencing the sensations? Very intentionally surrender these emotions. I am willing to let go of these emotions and come into a position of power within myself. I'm willing to surrender these emotions and respond to this challenge with the right attitude. As you inhale, continue to inhale from the divine source. Draw the breath to that part of your body where you feel these emotions and exhale directly out of that part. Wherever in your body you feel the sensation, breathe out from there. See that emotion leaving you and going back to the source. Return the anger, return the pain, return the grief. Surrender your disappointment, your helplessness. Until you are able to look at the person, look at the relationships involved, look at the people involved without this cloud of emotion between you. As these emotions are emptying out, see those spaces filled with the light, with the energy of the divine that is flowing into you as you breathe. Very consciously engage in this transfusion of energy, letting go of the toxic emotional residues and inviting in its place divine presence, divine grace, divine guidance, divine wisdom. If in this situation you have been blaming yourself, do the same with your own version of yourself that you have blamed all along. What comes to your mind spontaneously as the right attitude to extend to this person or people now? This person or people have delivered to you something that belongs to you. Now that you have understood it, you have accepted it, you have acknowledged it belongs to you. What now would be the appropriate attitude you wish to extend towards this person or persons, including yourself? In doing this, you are consciously bringing an end to the karmic entanglement between you and that person. You are consciously ensuring that this entanglement does not perpetuate. The nature of this entanglement is not given an additional lease of life. You are consciously ensuring that. What comes to your mind as the most appropriate attitude you wish to extend. Communicate to that person. What is the new relationship that you are establishing with this person? Check with yourself. Where were you coming from earlier? What was your internal location? And what have you changed it to be now? What is your current internal location? Respond from that new internal location. Communicate that to the people involved, including yourself. When you feel complete with that exchange, I invite you to bring your focus back to your breath. Connect to the divine teacher, the divine healer, and trust that you will be guided. Ask for guidance for the next step in that context. Now that I have taken responsibility for it, please guide me, show me the way. How shall I act? What shall I do so I do not recreate a similar karmic situation? How shall I create experience that puts me in a place of personal power? How shall I create a successful life? Whatever the context may be in this process, success in health, prosperity, fulfillment, joy. What will be the tone you wish to set for the coming year? Trust wherever you are, whenever you wish to do it. All you need to do is to center yourself and connect to your breath, and your divine guide, teacher, and healer is instantly accessible to you. Take your time. When you feel complete, you may want to do this again if you've not had enough time. When you feel complete, please come back to your body, come back to the here and now. Wishing every one of you a very, very successful 2026. Healthy, prosperous, peaceful, joyous, success in every sense of the term. I'm sure I'll see all of you soon, somewhere in 2026. So looking forward to that. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me.